They say time heals all wounds. I used to believe that. But time doesn't heal. It just makes the edges of memory soft enough so you can hold them without bleeding. My name is Thomas. Once, a long time ago, people called me Tommy, but the only person who ever called me Tom in that gentle, knowing way was Ellie. She was the kind of girl who made you believe in things before you even knew what they meant. We met the summer I turned 13. She was 14 and already the kind of beautiful that made the wind stop just to listen to her laugh. She wore a red ribbon in her hair every day, said it kept her dreams tied in place. We grew up next door to each other in a little town where Sundays smelled like fresh bread and porch swings creaked like lullabies. We built forts out of blankets, ran through cornfields until the sky turned lavender, and shared secrets like candy. But more than anything, we sat, just sat. She'd swing her legs over the porch rail and look at the stars like they were old friends. Sometimes she'd talk about leaving, traveling, becoming something bigger, but she never said it like she wanted to leave me. She'd always add, "But you'll come with me, right, Tom?" And I'd nod, every time. But life doesn't always ask what you want. Her father got a job in the city. She left the summer we were 17. We wrote letters for a while, but the distance, the silence between envelopes, it got bigger. I told myself it was just time, just growing up. But a piece of me always knew I let her slip away, and I never told her. Never said, "Ellie, I've loved you since the first time you made me laugh so hard I dropped my soda." Years passed. I lived, worked, married someone kind, lost her too. The world kept spinning. I convinced myself I'd moved on. But grief has layers, and regret, that's the one that never leaves your bones. Then one day, I got the letter. She was gone. Cancer, quick, quiet. No one even knew she'd been sick. There was no service, no goodbye, just a note from her niece, tucked in an envelope with handwriting I'd never forget. I read it once, then I packed everything into a suitcase, walked out of the life I'd built, and kept walking. They don't tell you that grief can strip your name away. Out there, on the streets, I wasn't Thomas. I was old man, sir, buddy, or just someone people tried not to make eye contact with. And I didn't care. I had nothing to prove, nothing left to lose. I carried one thing, a battered leather notebook. Inside, page after page of letters I wrote to Ellie every night. "I saw a girl today with your hair. She turned and it wasn't you, it never is. Do you remember the swing? The one by the river where you said the stars were teaching you secrets? I should have told you. Every day I should have told you." I slept behind train stations, beneath overpasses, under forgotten oak trees that once lined roads people no longer traveled. The world grew cold. So did I. But then came that night, that first snow. I'd huddled beneath the old bench at the central station, the one with the chipped paint and the loose slat where I hid my coin stash. It was colder than I'd felt in years, the kind of cold that seeps into your chest and reminds you you're still alive, somehow. Then I heard it, a sound, soft, almost like a sigh. I looked up, and there she was, a dog, small, mangy, so thin I could see the ribs. Her fur was matted, paws bleeding, and yet her eyes, God, those eyes, golden brown, just like Ellie's. That same quiet asking behind them, not for food, for trust. I should have looked away. I had nothing to give, but I took off my coat, the only one I had, and wrapped it around her. She curled up next to me, rested her head on my boot like it had always belonged there, and for the first time in years, I slept without dreaming. The next morning, she was still there, waiting, watching, following. I named her Ribbon because of the way her tail curled and because it felt like a sign. Ellie's red ribbon, the one she wore every single day. This dog felt like a memory tied into something warm and breathing. We became inseparable, two ghosts walking the edges of the world. But Ribbon, she brought life back to the shadows. She made people look not at her, at me. And slowly, I started looking back. Ribbon wasn't just company. She became something else, a compass, a guide, maybe more. She started leading me, not randomly, no, with purpose. One day she took me down 3 alleys across a busy road and stopped outside a cafe, a little brick place with faded green awnings. I froze. I knew that door, that chipped handle. It was where Ellie and I used to go as kids. She loved the raspberry scones. We hadn't been there in 50 years. Inside, it looked the same, dustier, quieter. But on the wall, tucked behind a cracked frame, a photo. Her, young, bright, laughing, holding a coffee cup with both hands like it held the secrets of the universe. My knees buckled. That night, I opened my notebook and wrote the longest letter I'd ever written. You're still here, aren't you? In the echoes, in the corners, in the places we left pieces of ourselves. And now this dog, this Ribbon, is it you, Ellie? Or did you send her? That night, for the first time, I dreamed of her. The dream was soft, like fog rolling across a familiar field. Ellie stood there, barefoot in the grass, that same red ribbon in her hair, swaying gently in the wind that didn't seem to exist anywhere else. She didn't speak, just smiled. I woke up with tears already soaking my cheeks. Ribbon was beside me, still watching, always watching. That morning, she pulled again, this time toward a side street I'd never noticed, past old warehouses, a broken fence, and a mailbox hanging on by one rusted hinge. At the end stood a house, falling apart, empty, it seemed. But Ribbon scratched the door once, then sat, like we'd arrived. It took everything in me to step inside. Dust covered everything, but the air was thick, not just with time, but with memory. On the mantel, under a sheet of grime, was a photo of a young girl in a yellow dress. Ellie. I knew this place. It was her aunt's house. She used to visit in the summers, but she never told me she inherited it. Ribbon nosed at a floorboard near the fireplace. Something had been wedged beneath it. I pried it loose with trembling hands. Inside, a tin box, rusty, dented, and locked. But I shook it gently. There was paper inside. It took me days to figure out how to open it. The lock finally gave, with the help of an old screwdriver. Inside were photographs and a sealed envelope. The handwriting stopped my heart. Tom, if you're reading this, then somehow the universe did what I didn't have the courage to do. I don't know how many years have passed. I don't even know if you're still in the world. But I had to write this. I've loved you since we were kids, since you gave me your mittens when I pretended not to be cold, since you told me I'd probably grow up to fly, because I was always looking at the clouds. I wanted to come back 1,000 times, but life, it made me cowardly. I thought maybe you'd moved on. Maybe I was just a memory for you. But Tom, if I ever was anything to you, know this, I never stopped waiting. I left the porch light on every night until the day I couldn't anymore. I couldn't finish the letter the first night. I couldn't even breathe I just sat on the broken floor of that old house with Ribbon curled up beside me. She looked up at me like she knew, and maybe she did. I went back the next day and the next. Each time I read more. Ellie had kept all my letters, even the ones I never mailed, the words I'd written in my mind 1,000 times. Somehow, they were there, like she'd heard them. She wrote about how she'd never married, said no one ever made her feel as known as I did. If we ever find each other again, even as ghosts, let's promise not to waste it. The house became a kind of home. Not much, no running water, no power, but it had a roof, a memory, and now it had Ribbon. We fixed things little by little. Neighbors started leaving scraps of food on the porch. A child once brought us blankets and said, "My grandma says the old man with the dog used to be in love." I laughed so hard I cried. One afternoon, the sky opened up. Summer rain, warm and furious. I sat on the porch, Ribbon at my feet, the red ribbon I tied on her collar fluttering. That's when I felt it, Ellie. Not as a vision or a ghost or a whisper, but as something inside me, like she'd finally come home. I looked up at the sky and said, "You waited. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner." Ribbon stayed with me 5 more years. She got older, slower, but never left my side. She watched over me, protected me. And I realized something one evening as the sun bled gold across the yard. Maybe Ellie hadn't sent Ribbon. Maybe Ribbon was Ellie. Not in the literal sense, but in the way that grief makes room for love to return, wearing a different shape. When Ribbon passed, it was quiet. She laid her head in my lap, looked up at me, and for the first time since I was a boy, I said it out loud. "I love you, Ellie." She closed her eyes, and I swear, just as she did. A breeze lifted the red ribbon from her collar and carried it up, up into the golden sky. Now I sit in this rocking chair by the window. I've been given a little room and a shelter that lets old men tell stories no one else remembers. They say I have a way with words. I tell them I'm just passing on a letter someone wrote me once. On my wall is a photo, a dog, a girl in a yellow dress, and a boy who once forgot to say goodbye. But every night, in my dreams, she's there, with Ribbon, smiling, waiting. And now, every morning when I wake up, I whisper, "I found you, Ellie," in every shadow, in every howl of the wind, in every gentle, trembling heartbeat that still remembers what it means to love and lose and love again. If you're still reading this or listening, don't wait. Don't let fear keep your heart locked in a box beneath the floorboards of what could have been. Say it. Say it now. Say everything, because sometimes the soul you're searching for is closer than you think. Maybe even curled up at your feet with a red ribbon and eyes that still remember every version of you.